of Mission San Jose. Enjoyed the magnificent show tonight. I think our Ron McKean, our great musician, is ready, and I'm happy to welcome all of you. Among us today, we have a special family. Michael Corsini and his wife and children are here. He's the main artist who painted the beautiful painting in the church. If you have not yet seen it, you are welcome to take a look maybe tomorrow when you come for our festivities. It's amazing, 50-foot long. He's here with his family and gonna present tomorrow after all the masses. So we just wanted to let you know and welcome the family when we see parents with 5 kids together. Once again, welcome to Mission San Jose and enjoy your show tonight.
Good evening and welcome. We're just about ready to start. We're waiting for the gala people to come back in from the garden patio. We will have a reception afterwards for all of you here that you're invited to. So we thank you for your attendance this evening. Please silence your cell phones at this time. And if you need assistance with the restrooms or location of anything, the greeters at each door will be happy to assist you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and beloved parishioners, good evening, and a heartfelt welcome to St. Joseph Catholic Church, Mission San José, Diocesan Shrine of St. Joseph. My name is Aaron Lovero. It is truly a pleasure to have you join us tonight for what promises to be an enchanting and captivating musical journey through time, Organa Hispanica. We extend our sincerest gratitude and admiration to our esteemed pastor, Father Anthony Huang Lee, for hosting this landmark event commemorating the 227th anniversary of Mission San José. We are truly blessed to have him as our shepherd and our spiritual guide. Father Anthony. We also extend our deepest appreciation and honor to Monsignor Manuel Simas. Father Anthony's humble and gracious predecessor, for his distinguished leadership and invaluable mentorship spanning more than 35 years. We are grateful for his enduring legacy and the profound impact he has had on our parish and community at large. Thank you, Father Manuel. Tonight, we invite you to immerse yourselves in the intricate beauty of sacred and secular Iberian music spanning the 16th through the 18th centuries, reflecting a period of remarkable innovation, creativity, and diversity, laying the foundation for the rich classical tradition that followed. And now, I'd like to tell you a bit about our esteemed artist, Mr. Ronald McKean. For more than 13 years, Mr. McKean has excelled as our campus-wide director of music ministries, our choir master and organist, conducting, teaching, and guiding a diverse array of multicultural and multilingual choirs, scholas, and musicians, both seasoned and aspiring. Before his tenure with us, he served with distinction as music director and organist at the First Presbyterian Church in Oakland for 25 years. Mr. McKean's illustrious academic journey includes studying under renowned masters such as the unrivaled Thomas Binkley at Indiana University Jacobs School of Music, where he earned his Master's of Music degree in harpsichord and performer's certificate in the 17th century Italian and Spanish keyboard music. His long-term mentorship with Kenneth Mansfield at California State University, Hayward, where he studied composition, organ, harpsichord, and theory, began his journey into the professional world of music. His famous mentors and instructors include Laurette Goldberg, Harold Vogel, Anthony Newman, and the legendary Leonard Bernstein. His academic contributions extend to his role as professor of organ and harpsichord at California State University, East Bay, where he earned his undergraduate degree. Mr. McKean's musical talents extend far beyond these mission walls. He has showcased his skills both nationally and internationally, competing on prestigious stages, including Haarlem in Holland, San Anselmo, and Boston with the American Guild of Organists. His critically acclaimed compositions and works include Sacred Harp Dyads for violin and harpsichord, Moon Phase for orchestra, numerous sonatas for brass and organ, and 3 etudes for organ have all been premiered and performed by students of Juilliard School, a world leader in performing arts education, UC Berkeley, Hertz Hall, and Stanford University Memorial Chapel. An expert and masterful improviser, Mr. McKean taught improvisation at Stanford University and continues to inspire and lead in the vast world of music. And now, without further delay, it is with my great pleasure that I introduce to you Mr. Ronald McKean.
Thank you, Mr. Lavaro. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you very much. Well, welcome to Mission San José, the Diocesan Shrine. We have a unique instrument here, the Rosales Opus 14. It's a mechanical action organ, which means that there's no electricity needed, and your fingers are directly connected to the process that allows you to open the pipe valves, the wind into the instrument. Hence, this instrument is a wind instrument. If the electricity goes out, no problem. We have a hand pump mechanism, which is pretty much the way organs, well, it's definitely the way the organs were operated before electricity. So in case there's a CME event or an apocalyptic thing, we will always have Mass with organ music. Anyway, so if you look here on the front, I would point out some very important things about Spanish and Portuguese organs. It's often a mistake to link Portuguese and Spanish as being the same culture or the same language. Of course, they're not the same language. But there's important cultural differences, but I won't go into those details. I'm going to pretty much give you an overview of what we have here. It's a unique instrument. There are very few Spanish instruments in the USA, particularly like this. There's another instrument in, it was just sold to Oberlin. Anyway, it was built by Greg Harrell. This one is typical in that you see there's faces that are painted on the pipes. And of course, that's Manuel Rosales, that's Father Norkett, and there's Carrie Quaid, who, by the way, did the artwork on here. This is gold leafed, and you know that gold leaf, you don't need very much gold to, do a whole organ for that. It looks opulent, it is, but it's not overly opulent. It's not overly expensive. At least it wasn't at the time this was built. On Spanish organs, they would paint famous people and random people and animals, like a cougar, which is appropriate for this area. And on this side, there's a bear, which you'll see there. And then you will see my late friend, Lynn Upham, who is very close to me, and he was working on this organ as well. If we go to the center of the picture, you will see, oh, by the way, these pipes are not dummy pipes, they actually sound, okay? These pipes are horizontal pipes, and they're called the clarine. And a clarine is like a trumpet stop, and they were made to have a lot of festival events. When important people or important events occurred, that those were used, particularly in what was called the battaglia, which is a piece that reflects a battle. Some of the battle pieces were programmatic, and you can tell when there was a battle with retreat, advance, and all that kind of stuff. Remember that at this time in the 16th century anyway, Spain had a massive influence. Its tendrils reached the globe, and its influence, in fact, its influence clear over to the Philippines. There's an organ that is very much like this in Las Peñas near Batangas. So this was not unusual that you would find these instruments throughout. Matter of fact, in the Church of the Assumption in Mexico City has one of the best preserved examples of a Spanish organ. It's just, I think, recently been restored or is on the way to it. These here are the stops, right here. And I pull these out, and that's where the sound is. Kind of a funny way to put it, a stop. It sounds counterintuitive. When you pull it on, you pull on the stops. It seems like you would push it in. Well, in fact, you did. Because originally organs were one sound, the very earliest things in the 14th century and stuff. One sound, and you couldn't vary that sound. Well, that got kind of tiring. So they created chests with the pipes sit on, and that you were able to pull on and off a sound. And so what did they want? They wanted to stop it. So they'd push it in, okay? And this led to another thing that was not entirely unique to Spain, but they really ran with it, and that is the keyboard. If we show the keyboard here, my perspective is, I can't find C. Yeah, there it is. Right here is C sharp. It's a dividing point. So from this note on down here, there's the certain set of sounds. On this note and this note on up, D and C sharp. So, well, why D? I mean, C major is when you start piano, it's the first scale you learn usually, and everything that's no sharps or flats. So why would they start with D? Well, that involves a complicated answer, but the short version is that the organ played music of the church, and the original organs were designed to hold notes while the cantor sang the chant, the Gregorian chant or the Ambrosian chant or what have you, in psalm tones. Well, things always change, and so pretty soon they started giving the organ the tune of the chant while the free music was on top of that, and that led to motets and such. But they started with this note because it was called the first tone. And you're going to see, if you look in your program, there's a lot of music that says eighth tone and some that says the sixth tone. Well, they didn't have keys or key signatures in those days. They had modes, and that opens up, I mean, people get their doctorates in modality. So it's a subject of protracted discussion. But safe to say, for simple way to go about it, is from D to D is one tone, from E to E is another, F to F, and G to G. But we stop there. And then you do the same thing, but your final note is 1/4 above it. So the next 8 are D to D, but it stops on G. E to E, but it stops on A. Yeah, I know, it's starting to get complicated. The reason that is that because there are certain sharps and flats that were not allowed to be done, particularly what was called the tritone, diabolus on musica. It was so awful that they avoided it. And then it was so awful that some composers enjoyed it and eventually would sneak it in, and pretty soon they led to double leading tones and the tuning systems changed, which wasn't so awful. And now we use it all the time. In fact, if you look at the music of Béla Bartók, tritones are everywhere. And some of the folk music, Hungarian folk music. So that's the keyboard. So you're going to hear tonight some music that has the trumpet sound up here and down here, like the toccata, the clarines, and down here is more accompaniment. And then in another one, the del sol re, the left hand is doing a high sound, but the right hand is doing a low sound. So it sounds inverted. Why did they do this? Well, the Spanish had a penchant for effect. And it wasn't just effect. Some of the most contrapuntally intensive music of the time was done in Spain. And their music was not written for entertainment. Well, that's not exactly true. What I mean is, it wasn't like you didn't go to a concert, maybe. but maybe you danced to it. Maybe there was a dance, or there was some cultural significance. Or if Spain had won a battle, which they were doing all the time until the 18th century, when Spain was basically descending. And when that happened, the organs changed also, and you're going to hear that in some of the music. Some of the composers sound a little bit more like Mozart, and other composers are much earlier. That's why I wanted to span the time. Heredia's music, the ensalada, is a combination of different stops and styles within one piece. And when the Lopez's music, the escuela, which means school of organ, he was exploring composition. Now, a lot of it sounds kind of Mozart, but it doesn't use the organ the same way the 16th and 17th century composers used it. They didn't do that many divided stops. It wasn't interest. And the organs were beginning to fall apart, and they weren't well cared for. A lot of the composers were priests. And so therefore, I'm going to train Father Anthony to play the organ for Mass while I chant it. Just kidding, Father. Anyway, and so to wrap this up, what I also want to point out too is, I don't know if you can get down at the pedal. Yeah. So on this organ, there are pedals, but in most Spanish organs, they have pedals, but they're not like a scale. There's certain notes that played, and they played either what was called a contras, which was a bass pipe, and it was meant to have an organ point. That means that note just held while you played a bunch of other things, like in a toccata or a battaglia or something like that. But this organ was made so that it was practical for use in church, because we wanted to make it useful for liturgy that we do today, not just older liturgical settings. So there's a thing called parejitos, which is the little birds. You're going to hear that. I just fixed it, by the way. And then this little bells that are right here. And these are like things that turn on some of the stops that are loud. And then there's a timbrel, which is the drums. Now, what that drums are two pipes that are a half step apart that beat. It's not really drums, but it gives the effect of having a drum. And you're going to hear that in one of the pieces. I'll say this, if you have sung today the Panjalingua, which is one of the most important texts of the church, because it talks about the most important thing, the Eucharist and the blood of Christ. The Panjalingua was, the text was always there, but the tune changed. We sing a more modern tune today, but in Spain, they sang one that was based on Ambrosia chant, which was a little later than Gregorian chant, but it had also more of a folk sound. And so that is what's meant by secular. In other words, secular is not to mean non-church. Secular in the sense that they took tunes were absorbed from folk melodies and that sort of thing. Remember that you come from a period of time when, even as far back as the medieval period, when you had the play of Daniel, and you had an acting out of the gospel or some story. I mean, even in Germany, when you had these psalms that represented a story and that sort of thing. The only other thing I would say is the organ, the stops and the keys work as a matrix, so that can you get behind the organ? So that if you look in the back of the organ, you will see that. Oh, they're the birds. They're bubble, so they sound like birds, but they're pipes upside down that are bubbling in, well, it's supposed to be water, but we put antifreeze so it doesn't ruin it. And these are the stop knobs. And is what I was saying. This goes this way, and the keys go that way. It's a matrix because the keys open the valve, and the stop action allows you to play all the keys for one sound. And so it's kind of like a loom. In fact, it's very much after the Jacquard loom. One of the things that I wanted to do, if you look at your programs before I end, The music, much of it, may be a 300 or 200-year premiere. And that is thanks to my friend William R. Shannon. Will you stand up, please? I first became interested in Spanish music when I was at Hayward State, East Bay. And the library, which was headed at the time by Ray Reeder, did a lot of, there was a lot of great things that you would not normally find. And one of those was several treatises on Spanish organs and music. There was a lot of that music. And then I met Bill, and Bill had a little organ, and he liked Spanish music, and he showed me all this. And to this day, he's been producing, it has to be well over 2,000 pieces. I mean, there must be millions of notes. He writes faster than I can play it, and learn it. So I really appreciate it, and I want to show where he's arranged and found these things in various catalogs in Spain, and then put them in notation that I can read instead of chicken scratch. So anyway, I really appreciate his abilities in doing that. I used to go and visit Bill all the time in the tech room because he was the most interesting person on campus. Anyway, I want to thank you very much for coming, and we'll get started with the program in a few minutes. I give you about 5 minutes, and I really appreciate your attention. Thank you very much. Those two composers, Soler and Satius, were both contemporaries and antecedents of Scarlatti. So if you notice anything that sounded vaguely like Scarlatti in the piece that we just did, that means that your ears are attuned, because yes, they're very similar. And now here's the Panjalingua. I'm just going to play the tune first so that you hear what it sounds like. Some of this music is very heavily choral. The next piece is one such piece, that it is almost choral like a motet. And a tiento is basically a keyboard piece, toccata if you want. Falsas gets into some complex thing, but it basically means a false tone within the tone that's set. One's notes that were not normally allowed or set in certain tensions of suspensions that normally weren't done. This uses these front pipes up here, not the horizontal, but the ones with faces on it. This next piece is Partido de Mano Derecha, means it's a piece for the right hand, and it's divided. Sometimes they say dos tipos, but this time they are using the partido to show that there's two voices. This is reminiscent of the great composer Monteverdi. The great tradition of organ in the church has been represented by its participation in what's called alternating. That means to alternate. Most of the famous music was done at Vespers, which was always Sunday night Vespers. And at that time, where a good deal of psalms were done, very similar to what we do today, there are 4 different psalms and a canticle. The organ would alternate with the verses. So the cantor would sing a verse, and then the organ would play a verse. I'm hoping to do some of this in real time at a type of Vespers in the future. But if you know some of these tunes, they go. That's one of the most famous tunes, chant tunes, that's probably the most ancient, and we use that today in the Catholic Church. And it's been this tradition for over 1,000 years. And so this music represents that in alternation in these great Vespers that were done.
Amazing, isn't he? One more round of applause for Ron. We are very, very fortunate to have him here with us tonight. At this time, we graciously invite your free will offering to support the care and preservation of our historic Mission San José Diocesan Shrine of St. Joseph. Your generosity will help ensure that this cherished landmark continues to inspire and serve future generations, maintaining its legacy of faith and heritage. Please be generous when the basket comes to you. And may I remind you, you are all welcome to attend our post-concert reception in the Mission Patio, generously hosted by the Committee for Restoration of the Mission San José. Our deepest gratitude to Gary and Nancy Dorigi for their years of service and dedication to our mission. Please accept these orchids as a small token of our appreciation. Thank you, Gary and Nancy. Please take your seats, everyone. Please take your seats. If I could ask everyone to take their seats, please. To capture the essence and beauty of Mr. McKean's music, please visit the greeters at the doors and purchase your CD before you leave tonight. Please take your seats now as we resume the final segment of our concert this evening.
This next piece, the Toccata para Clarins de Battaglia, is the features the clarines up here on the top above me, these horizontal pipes. So you'll hear those going throughout the piece. So this final piece is written by this gentleman with a funny name. And I dare you to guess who it is. Anyway, this is a fandango which has many forms, so there's no way to describe it, but it's basically going to be, for me, a little bit of the dance on the feet. And then after that is a paso, which is like a fugue. It's a contrapuntal work. Hope you enjoy it. You know, I think I'll say my thanks right now. I want to thank these gentlemen up here, Irwan and Bowie and Dave and Frank, for their technical assistance. It's awesome. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. I'd like to thank Aaron Lavaro for emceeing this. Fantastic job. I appreciate that, Aaron. Thank you. I want to thank all the kids who are monitoring my CDs and handing out programs. John, Josie, Sally, I really appreciate you doing this. And these kids have talent. You should come to the Mass. Come to Mass. Come to 10 o'clock, but come to 12 where you can see these kids do their thing. Come to all the Masses. Yeah, you'll be holier. And I would also like to thank Father Anthony, our pastor, personally, for allowing us to do this. It's really a great thing to be able to do. So thank you, Father Anthony. Now I want to thank Father Manny, our pastor emeritus, because he wanted to play a few pieces, but I said, well, maybe next time. So I thank you for being here. He's up here in the loft with me. And we played some of your countrymen's music, you see. And last but not least, I want to thank Gary and Nancy Durigi and for being such great hosts for the mission here and all their work that they do here. Thank you, Gary and Nancy, and the entire staff. And besides the entire staff, there's one person who is unforgettable, and she stays up till 2 in the morning and then gets up at 6. Am I right, Dave, or something like that? And she does all the programs here, her and Ann Wynn, along with Ann Wynn. This is none other than Deborah Rosetto. Thank you, Debbie, for the truth is, I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it wasn't for Debbie providing all this help, and I really appreciate it, and thank you very much. Thank you all very much.
So, thank you, Ron. At this time, we want to express our heartfelt gratitude for your presence and generous support this evening here. We cordially invite you all to join us for a delightful reception on the Mission patio, where you can meet Ronald and continue this magical evening and experience. Thank you all, and good night.